If you're Russell Westbrook, you have to look in the mirror now more so than ever before, particularly because Kevin Durant is now a champion. Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors and then winning the championship with Kevin Durant performing the way that he did, it wasn't just because of his greatness. It was because of teammates who didn't mind him being great and stepping forward and taking the bull by the horn and being that alpha male when necessary. And Kevin Durant, if he never was it before, he clearly was that dude for the Golden State Warriors in these NBA Finals. And so as a result, that transitions the pressure to Russell Westbrook, who now has to look in the mirror and he has to reflect in certain ways, guys. And I happen to know that Russell Westbrook still harbors hard feelings towards people like Irvin Magic Johnson, who was working for our network during the finals 5 years ago when he called a 40-plus point explosion by Russell Westbrook one of the worst performances by a point guard he had ever seen, because he pointed towards Russell Westbrook's selfishness in not getting others the ball. I thought that was a bad performance, as well as Magic Johnson. But it was just a performance in that particular game. It doesn't take anything away from the greatness of Russell Westbrook. What happens is I'm told that Russell Westbrook still harbors hard feelings towards a Magic Johnson and others because they had those opinions years ago. He's a different kind of cat. So if you're going to be that way, you can get away with it when you do everything to debunk it. But when you have somebody like Kevin Durant, who appears to have validated those assertions about you, now that he's a champion and you're not, Max, you have to look in the mirror if you're Russell Westbrook and say, okay, I've established my greatness as an individual. Now I got to take this to another level in terms of being the leader I need to be.
That was also my first reaction. I mean, I just said in the previous debate, Stephen A., that LeBron James is, one of the effects of LeBron James is that you have a super team in Golden State, because how do you overcome LeBron James? That was a huge factor, I believe, in Kevin Durant going to Golden State. Got to overcome the king. But another factor, as I've always said, is the second biggest one, I think, is Durant kept hearing so much about who's alpha, who's beta, who takes the last shot, who's going to play hero ball, all these, who's the closer, all these things. And as I've said, you know who takes the last shot on the Golden State Warriors? The open man. And Durant looked at that and said, that's how Durant wants to play basketball. And if he's the open man and he has the best chance to hit it, then he'll get the ball. And if his teammate is, then his teammate will. But you don't have to answer questions about it after the game and have it put in your head that, oh, the other guy's somehow stopping you. So I think there is something to what you're saying, and I've made that point also. But then I considered this, Stephen A., and I want you to consider it too. Last year, in the Western Conference Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder looked for all the world for most of that series against Golden State like they, and not the Warriors or the Cavs, were the best team in basketball. Now, we know it didn't work out that way. We can argue about how you define a choke, but Westbrook and Durant did not play well when they needed to. They weren't their normal, excellent selves in games, you can argue, 6 and 7 when they needed to, and they lost narrowly in a classic 7-game Western Conference Finals that just about matched the finals that year, Game 7 that year. I went to both Game 7s just as a fan because I was so interested in the games. That's how epic they were. You lose that narrowly, you're very, very close. And what happened after that? They lost Kevin Durant. He just got peeled off that team. And as you have pointed out, Stephen A., it's not just that he left that team, it's that he joined the other team. So do this thought experiment. We both agree, everyone agrees, that Draymond Green's an excellent player, but he ain't Kevin Durant, right? He's not worth as many wins. He's not as good. Between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant, almost no matter what you need, you'll figure it out. Just give me Kevin Durant. Imagine for a second that Draymond Green was peeled off Golden State and added to the Westbrook-Durant Thunder. Well, then, it's a very good possibility that right now Westbrook and Durant just won their first championship. Certainly, we'd expect them to get past the Golden State Warriors and into the finals. So while my first reaction is to agree with you, Westbrook has to look in the mirror and all these things, it may be very simple. Take one of the best players on the other team, put them with Westbrook and Durant, and they win a chip. That's not Westbrook's fault.
Whoa. I'm not saying it's Westbrook's fault. I'm saying that's the narrative that was circulating league-wide. I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. I've religiously said he could play on my team every day. As temperamental as he can be, he's just a different kind of cat. But that works for him, so be it. A matter of fact, I'm the guy that points the finger at OKC management for exactly the reasons that Isaiah Thomas so adroitly pointed out on our show when he met us in San Francisco, in Oakland, just a couple of days ago. When you look at OKC and Ibaka's gone and Harden's gone and Reggie Jackson's gone and ultimately Kevin Durant ends up walking out the door, this is a problem that OKC needs to address. We don't bring up the name Scott Brooks enough. Scott Brooks did a very good job in the nation's capital this year, but he didn't do a great job in Game 7. Kelly Oubre not playing a single minute, that makes no sense whatsoever. It seemed like the panic button was pushed by a guy I happen to like, which is Scott Brooks, because when times got tight, it wasn't just a couple of players that got tight. I believe the coach got tight. This is something that they were saying about him when he was in OKC, something you accurately pointed out, Max, on several occasions about Scott Brooks in the past when he was coaching Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. So we got Scott Brooks. We got management in OKC, because I respect the hell out of Sam Presti, but that doesn't mean he's flawless. We got an owner that let go of James Harden because he didn't want to pay $4 million. Not $4 million extra per year, a grand total of $4 million he didn't want to come up with, and ends up losing James Harden. So we know that, but it doesn't negate the fact that if you're Russell Westbrook and you're sitting here today looking at Kevin Durant capture a championship and talk about the chemistry, the selflessness, the togetherness, etc., he's essentially saying he's never had it this good. He never had it like that before. And if you're Russell Westbrook, you want to take something like that, and you got to figure out a way to make sure that that's something that can never be alluded to you again, because you're getting numbers, but are you winning? That's the question.